Hey, what's going on, guys? Bflattened here with a brand new video today. Today we are doing a build video. This is a Poison Flower Blooms Twice build. It is reliant and working on the Ash of War, the Poison Flower Blooms Twice, and it is heavily dealing with stacking up poison as fast as possible, and then just kind of steamrolling from there. Let's go ahead and talk about the important parts of the build, and then we'll go ahead and do some showcases for it. So one of the things to really talk about is just the levels and stats that you need itself. I always recommend having a 60 HP just for the DLC. If you don't plan on taking this thing through the DLC, then you could probably float with a nice 50, and then eventually bump it up to 60 when you plan to do Shadow of the Erdtree, until you get the fragments, the shadow tree fragments, and then you could probably bump that down again because you have that offset on the defensive side. Mind at a 20 is okay. I like that because you get a good rotation of your buffs, and then you also get a good few opportunities to cast your Ash of War during the battle, where you won't really need to recover that as much. I recommend having 2 of the Flask of Cerulean Tears just so that you can fully replenish after your rotation of buffs, and then having 1 more just in case you cast the Ash of War a few too many times or you miss with it. So you only really need a 20 mind. Endurance at 30 is a little bit hardcore, honestly. You could probably take that down to about a 25. I like the stamina, and also it allows for a medium roll with the equipment that we're wearing. So 30 is just fine, but you could probably take it down to a 25 if you want to. Strength at 20, not needed. Dexterity at 20, not needed. You can have that at base rolls and be completely fine. So long as you can hold the Venomous Fang with a dex of 9 and a strength of 9. And the Poison Hand is only an 8 and 8, so you don't need any of that. As long as you have 9 and 9, you'll be fine. Intelligence is the same way. We're not using intelligence at all for any spell casting. Faith at 28, I recommend 28 because the 28 is good so that you can cast Golden Vow freely, because that's the minimum requirements for it. Thank you for the follow, by the way. I appreciate it. And also, we have an Arcane bumped up to 80. Arcane is going to be our main stat, and the reason why is because we tossed the Occult on the Venomous Fang so that it has a B scaling in Arcane. It allows us to have a poison buildup jump up to 149. And it makes it so that we can stack poison very, very quickly, because the proc of poison is the most important. The proc of poison is the most important. You can use any seal, doesn't matter. The seal, as long as you just cast the spell, there's nothing that really interrupts that. And then you have the Poison Hand. The Poison Hand will make it so that whenever poison procs in the area, it's kind of like the Kindred of Rot's Exaltation. You get a 7.5% power buff so that you do more damage. Mushroom Crown is the same way. When poison procs, again, you get more damage buffs. And then I'm using the Rakshasa Armor and Gauntlets for more damage. And then you get damage taken is a little bit higher, so you got to be a little bit careful. The Rakshasa set will have it so that you take a little bit more damage, but you also deal a little bit more damage too. As you can see in the description of the item, increases damage dealt to foes, but greatly increases damage taken by the wearer. So having only 2 pieces is fine. And then the Divine Warrior, Bird Warrior Greaves. The reason why we want these is because it increases stomp-based or kick-based damage by an additional 5%. This actually stacks with the Shattered Stone Talisman, which is something that we're using as well. It raises the potency of kicking and stomping-based skills, which is what the Poison Flower Blooms Twice is considered, is a stomp, because we jump up in the air and then we stomp down. The Shard of Alexander, so that we can do more damage with that even more, because it increases the power of skills. Rotten Wing Sword Insignia, it greatly raises your attack power with successive attacks. When you two-hand the Venomous Fang, it makes it so that you attack very quickly because you put on 2. And then the Kindred of Rot's Exaltation, poisoning or rot in vicinity increases your attack power. raised with the poison hand and also raised with the mushroom crown. Fantastic combo. You can also use things like Millicent's prosthetis, and you can also use defensive versions of talismans as well. Kind of like the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman or Pearl Drake Talisman, if the Rakshasa set is a little bit overwhelming for you. But you can also use things like the Turtle Talisman as well if you need more stamina. That's pretty much what I like to use for it. Finally, your flasks. And then the Wondrous Physic is Opaline Hard tier or Thorny Crack tier. You can substitute either one of these if you don't like it with the Blood-Sucking Crack tier, because it's a flat 20% extra damage. It is nice. Opaline Hard tier makes it so that you are able to face tank a little bit more, especially with the Rakshasa set, and so that you can get your attacks through, so that you can proc your poison. Thorny Crack tier is just like the Rotten Wing Sword Insignia or the Millicent's Prosthetis, so that more successful attacks deals more damage. And then Blood-Sucking Crack tier is just 20% damage for the 3-minute time frame, but you lose 1% of HP per second. Now let's actually get into the build itself. So we're going to be two-handing the Occult Venomous Fang. It is a claw, so it's very short, so you're going to have to be up close and personal the entire time. You just got to make sure that both your claws are on. And with your poison hand in the offhand, it doesn't need to be equipped in your hand actively in order for it to proc. It just has to be on your person. So as long as it appears in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, then you'll know that whenever you poison something, it will proc. Now for the rotation is you poison the enemy. You just need to keep on hitting and poisoning the enemy as quickly as you possibly can, while also taking the time to roll where you need to and mitigate as much damage as possible. But ideally, you want to overwhelm the enemy with as many attacks as possible until that poison procs. You'll be able to tell when the poison procs when the enemy is in either full green or your head glows, so that you can see the power boosting up with that as well. We're just gonna proc the poison, and as you can see, now it is procced. So we can get into our Ash of War, which is the poison flower blooms twice. We'll wait till he attacks. And he attacked, and now he's dead. The poison flower blooms twice is impressive because it deals more damage based on the enemy being poisoned. So if you poison your enemy, you deal more damage with this Ash of War significantly. Then you include things like the Mushroom Crown, then you include things like the Poison Hand, and then you also include things like the Divine Bird Warrior Feet, and also the Shattered Stone Talisman. And then there's also things like the Thorny Crack tier and Rotten Wing Sword Insignia, where if you stack up those multiple hits, you're just doing a fuck ton more damage from there. I've seen things go upwards of 10, 20,000 damage, and if they're not poison, you can do things between 4 to 7,000-ish. Let's go ahead and just show the Ash of War really quick. So this is the Ash of War here. The poison flower blooms twice. You are gonna have to see the you are gonna have to replace the Venomous Fang's original skill, which is Quick Step. But gladly you are able to replace the Ash of War with the Poison Flower Blooms twice. But yeah, it makes it so that you do that Stomp attack. It is a little bit much to wind up, as you can see. But it doesn't cost a lot to be able to use. And the other thing to keep in mind as well is that it causes an AoE. Look at the AoE here. That AoE actually counts as a second hit, and it makes it so that it also does stance damage. So even if you miss, that AoE is also going to cause damage. And yeah. The other thing to keep in mind of the Ash of War, Poison Flower Blooms twice, is if you directly make contact with your enemy that is poisoned, you will reset the poison marker. So whenever you break, or whenever you hit the poisoned enemy, the poison gets removed, so you can restack it again. So that's the rotation, is just poison, Poison Flower Blooms twice. If they're still alive, if they're a boss, then you just reset it. Keep on hitting for poison again. Poison Flower Blooms twice. so on and so forth. And it is overpowered. It's very, very good. Go ahead and give this a whirl if you'd like. It is a lot of fun. One last thing to kind of keep in mind as well. If you want to have a little bit of range, you are able to do so. The thing that I liked for a little bit of range, if it's a little bit too close for you, is the Tooth Whip. The Tooth Whip has a good range on it and has a good move set. You will have to increase your dexterity to 24 in order to use it, but if you want to have a little bit of a range option, it is worthwhile. It is fun. It has a B scaling in dex and also causes poison buildup, and it lets you have a little bit of a range option. I think that will do it for the build, though. My name is Bflattened, and I'm signing on out of here. Take care, all. Laters.